Many people wonder why they are not achieving financial success. And one of the most common questions I hear is, where was my father when others were buying land? It may sound like a simple question, but in reality, it's a crucial reflection on the financial legacy we inherit. The problem isn't a generational curse or some force beyond our control. It lies in repeated choices made over generations, often based on a lack of knowledge or behavioral patterns that don't support wealth creation. When I look back, I see that most families didn't receive the necessary education about money. In fact, many lived with the mindset that simply working hard and waiting for a paycheck was enough to secure a prosperous future. But what actually happens is that this kind of mindset prevents the building of real wealth. The issue isn't hard work itself, but that previous generations never learned how to manage money wisely. Now you might be thinking, but my father did what he could with what he knew. And you're right. However, once you start noticing these patterns and choices, you gain the power to change them. This doesn't mean placing blame. It means understanding where your family's story was written in a way that held back financial growth. When we understand that, we can make a conscious decision to break that cycle. The key here is knowledge. What did your parents do right? What did they get wrong? Looking back isn't just about understanding what happened. It's about identifying what is now in your control to change your financial reality. It's time to take responsibility and understand that you can write a different story for your family. It doesn't matter how late you start. What matters is taking the first step. By doing so, you free yourself from old patterns and create a more prosperous future. That means using financial knowledge to make the best decisions. Don't accept the limitations of the past. It's time to change your family's financial patterns, and it starts with you. So let me ask you this. Are you ready to stop repeating your family's same financial mistakes? Are you ready to change the course of your story and make sure your next generation doesn't face the same struggles? I see many people constantly struggling, facing financial hardship, and complaining about the lack of opportunities. One of the most common complaints I hear is, where was my father when others were buying land? Why didn't my family teach me how to make money? These questions come from a place of frustration and often ignorance, not because it's their fault, but because they don't understand how the financial system really works. And what I've observed is that many families over generations have perpetuated a pattern of no financial planning. As I always say, families don't need to be rich to teach their children how to build wealth, but they do need to start with the basics: planning. The absence of intentional financial planning is what keeps many families stuck. For example, many families have children without the necessary resources to support them, something that may sound absurd in today's world, but was common in earlier times, especially in agricultural societies. Back then, having more children meant more hands to work the land, so the concept made sense. But in today's global economy and competitive job market, this only leads to debt and financial limitations. It not only reduces the chances of success for the next generation, but it also perpetuates poverty. Past generations may not have had the tools to understand the long-term consequences of their decisions, but that's no excuse to keep repeating the same mistakes. What we need is a family bank, one focused on responsible planning. It's not just about managing money, but about investing in the future of the next generation. I strongly believe that the secret to financial success starts at home. The real family bank lies in teaching the next generations the value of money, of investing, and especially of living in a responsible and strategic way. It starts with the small things, like teaching your children the importance of financial literacy from an early age, helping them understand how to build a budget, and, more importantly, showing them that money's value goes far beyond immediate consumption. Money should work for you, not the other way around. So the real question is, are you creating a healthy financial environment for your children? Are you investing your time and effort in planning so that your family's future generations don't have to fight the same battles you did? Did you know that education goes far beyond what we learn in school? This is something I constantly talk about, and a lesson you cannot ignore. The educational level of our parents and grandparents has a deep impact on how we deal with money and how we perceive financial success. When I think about this, the idea of complete education comes to mind. And that's what truly separates those who achieve financial success from those who remain stuck in the struggle. Education is the greatest social equalizer we have. It levels the playing field. But the truth is that many of us were never taught in the right way. There's a huge difference between simply learning to read, write, and do math, and being educated to prosper. In our society, we often focus only on one kind of education, forgetting that other essential areas also need development. First, there's academic education, the kind we all know from schools and universities. But believe me, that's only a piece of the puzzle. If you limit yourself to this type of education, you might land a good job, but real wealth will slip through your fingers. True prosperity comes when you combine academic knowledge with other forms of education. The second is personal education. Did you know the way you see yourself, your beliefs, and your attitude can be decisive for your financial success? That's what I call mindset. Without strong personal education, you'll be stuck with limiting beliefs that prevent you from reaching your true potential. If you believe you can't be rich or that money isn't for people like you, you're condemning yourself to a lifetime of financial struggle. Third, there's spiritual education. I'm not talking about religion here, but about how you view money and the world around you. In my view, the way you relate to money is deeply connected to your spirituality. If you believe that money is dirty or that seeking wealth is wrong, you'll never be able to build a prosperous future. Fourth, we have professional education, learning how to work in something specific, something you're good at, and that others are willing to pay for. But here's the crucial point. You can't limit yourself to one job. Your professional education needs to evolve into something more. For example, if you work in sales, learning to sell a product is great, but learning how to scale your business and develop new sources of income is even better. And finally, there's financial education, the most important of all. This is what most schools never teach. Financial education goes beyond knowing how much to spend and how much to save. It's about understanding how money works, how to invest, how to make money work for you, instead of working for money your whole life. If you want to achieve financial freedom, this is the most critical education you need. What many people don't realize is that living on a salary is one of the most limiting ways to survive financially. I always say, a salary is disguised slavery. It may sound harsh, but it's the reality for most people. When you rely solely on a salary to live, you're essentially trading time for money. And that's a game that will never lead to true financial freedom. The issue isn't hard work, but how that work is used. I'm not saying you should quit your job or stop working hard. I'm saying that real prosperity comes from understanding that money should never be your end goal. Work, especially purposeful work, should be a means to something greater. What most people don't understand is that in the traditional system, you're limited by what your employer decides your time is worth. And here's the turning point. Wealthy people don't live like that. They create income streams that don't depend on their time. I call this financial empowerment. Entrepreneurs are people who understand that real wealth isn't in traditional jobs. It's in the ability to create and invest in businesses, assets, and most importantly, in solutions that generate cash flow without requiring their constant effort. That's where the entrepreneurial mindset comes in. Instead of waiting for a fixed paycheck at the end of the month, they build something that over time generates income more passively. If we go back to biblical examples, we'll see that men like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were all entrepreneurs. They didn't just work hard at what they did. They constantly sought out new opportunities to expand their enterprises and build lasting legacies. They understood that work should have purpose and produce long-term results. They knew that true wealth comes from the ability to create something enduring. So by understanding this difference between being a wage earner and being an entrepreneur, you begin to see the need to change your mindset. Purposeful work, as opposed to simply having a job, is the path to financial freedom. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a traditional business. It's about having the mindset to find new ways to multiply your money, invest, and generate passive income. When you do that, you begin to take full control of your financial life and build a future where salary is no longer the limiting factor. True financial freedom lies in creating multiple streams of income and understanding that money must work for you, not the other way around. When you choose this path, you'll no longer be trapped in the paycheck cycle. You'll be creating your own financial destiny. One of the biggest mistakes I see, especially in countries that have gone through colonization, is the frantic race for social status. This has deep roots in the past, and its effects are still visible today. The system imposed by colonizers wasn't designed to create freedom or prosperity. It was designed to maintain submission. That system turned African entrepreneurs and other free people into obedient workers with no room to thrive or build wealth. And unfortunately, many still carry that legacy without ever questioning it. When we look at what many are doing today, we see a constant pursuit of status. People chase titles, job positions, luxury cars, and social validation as if that's what really matters. Instead of chasing financial freedom, they're chasing external approval. And the worst part is that this pursuit of status often comes at the cost of financial health, education, and real wealth building. This cycle of status seeking leads many to work just to enrich others, but never themselves. As I often say, people work to buy things they don't need, with money they don't have, to impress people who don't care. It's a classic mistake, one that's been repeated for generations. Many people get caught up in the race for status and lose sight of what truly matters. When I see someone buying a luxury car just to show off, I know that person still hasn't understood how real wealth works. Take the example of the famous air-conditioned coffins, those corporate cars used for show. They're not symbols of success, they're symbols of slavery. These people aren't earning money to live freely. They're just sustaining a cycle where the appearance of wealth is more important than true wealth. They're just financing an image while their bank accounts stay empty. The problem is that the status system imposed by colonizers is still alive and well. It tells us that what matters is what you wear, where you live, and what you own. This belief is deeply rooted in many people, and the result is clear: a cycle of debt and financial frustration. What most people don't realize is that by chasing this status, they're simply working to make others rich, not themselves. Real financial success, contrary to what many think, doesn't come from owning a new car or having a prestigious title. It comes from understanding that real wealth is built on assets, financial education, and multiple income streams. We must learn to let go of the idea that status defines who we are. True wealth comes from having control over your own destiny, not from trying to fit into a mold imposed by a society that values the superficial. It's time to question the system, to understand the true meaning of wealth, and to shift the focus of our financial lives. It's not about showing others how much you have, but about building a life that gives you freedom and financial security. That's the real legacy we should be striving for. When it comes to achieving financial success, many people become obsessed with what lies outside themselves. They seek out opportunities, contacts, or ideas from external sources, forgetting that the key to success is already within them. All of us are born with gifts, talents, and abilities that, when recognized and properly directed, can lead us to wealth. The problem is that we often can't see those gifts, or we don't know how to use them effectively. In my journey, I learned that a person's true potential lies mostly in their own hands. Most of what you need to succeed is already inside you. You just have to look inward and realize it. It's easy to get distracted trying to follow someone else's path or searching for external solutions, but true transformation begins when you recognize what you already possess. Many people live their entire lives without ever realizing the gifts they have. It could be a skill, a talent, or a passion that, if properly guided, can become a powerful source of income. Sometimes, these talents are so natural to us that we don't even recognize their value. The secret is learning to identify those gifts and use them strategically. I always say that true wealth begins when you start working with what you already have. When you begin exploring your own talents instead of searching for answers outside yourself, that's when opportunities start to appear, and this can happen in a simple way without the need for large investments or external resources. You already have what you need. You just need to know how to apply it. The question is, do you know what your gifts are? Do you know what you already have and how to use it to generate wealth? When you start looking inward and applying your natural abilities, money begins to flow more organically. The secret to real prosperity is understanding that instead of trying to become something you're not, you should focus on becoming the best version of yourself and using your abilities in the smartest way possible. Stop looking outside for what's already inside you. Your gifts are the foundation of your wealth. By focusing on them and using your potential to its fullest, you begin creating the ideal conditions to build a prosperous financial life. Often, opportunities are right in front of us, but we fail to see them. That's because we're so stuck in old patterns of thinking and behavior that we can't recognize the open doors around us. The truth is, opportunities are everywhere, in every situation, in every challenge, in every new market trend. But to recognize them, you must stay alert, shift your mindset, and most of all, open your eyes to what really matters. When I talk about seeing opportunities, I'm referring to something deeper than just spotting a good deal. I'm talking about seeing opportunities for what they really are, ladders that can take you to new financial levels. They won't show up as grand or easy, but as small shifts that, when seized wisely, can produce great results. These opportunities may come from a new market niche, a change in consumer needs, or even from a skill you have that can be monetized. The thing is, if you don't have a growth mindset, you'll overlook them. You might see something as a minor opportunity and dismiss it as insignificant. But the greatest fortunes were built from a simple idea, a shift in perspective, or a small opportunity most people ignored. The key here is to realize that opportunities aren't somewhere far off or in the future. They're here now, all around you, waiting to be seized. To recognize these opportunities, you need to be willing to change your worldview. The scarcity mindset, the one that makes you believe there aren't enough opportunities for everyone, is what stops many people from achieving true wealth. Instead of seeing the world as a competitive and limited place, you need to start seeing it as a fertile field full of possibilities. The secret is to be ready to recognize opportunities when they arise and to act quickly to take advantage of them. So instead of waiting for the perfect moment or the golden opportunity, start looking around in the present moment. The chances you need to thrive are closer than you think. And to take advantage of them, you just need to stay alert, be proactive, and be willing to take the next step. Money isn't just about numbers, bank accounts, or investments. For many, money is treated as something purely material, something you earn and spend. But the truth is, money has a spiritual dimension that we often ignore. I'm not talking about spirituality in the religious sense. but in the way our relationship with money reflects our beliefs, values, and even our worldview. When we speak of money as something spiritual, we're talking about the power it has to dominate our minds and hearts. If you have a scarcity mindset, if you believe money is hard to earn or that it's dirty or wrong, you will never be able to achieve true financial freedom. That's because, for many people, money represents something that controls them, something that makes them feel fear or insecurity. But that mindset is what blocks the flow of wealth in your life. To overcome this barrier, you need to understand that true financial freedom comes from overcoming this spirit of money. This means learning to have a healthy relationship with money. Money should be a tool, not an end goal. It should work for you, not the other way around. And for that to happen, you need to change the way you see money. Instead of viewing it as a constant need or source of anxiety, start seeing it as a means to achieve your goals and fulfill your dreams. One of the biggest financial traps is a lack of generosity. Many people, out of fear of losing money, become stingy and never allow money to circulate in their lives. They believe they must hoard as much as possible and guard it at all costs. But as I always say, money doesn't flow when you try to grip it too tightly. It needs to be released, distributed, invested, and used strategically. And when you do that, you allow money to work in your favor, not against you. So the first step to overcoming the spirit of money is to trust in your ability to create and generate wealth. Fear of losing money, fear of investing, fear of failing. These are the greatest blocks to financial success. By shifting your mindset and viewing money as a tool to create more opportunities and help others, you begin releasing the energy necessary to attract more wealth. The secret here is to not let money dictate your life. It should be a reflection of your ability to act with wisdom and confidence. When you start to see money as an ally, not as an enemy, you're ready to achieve true financial freedom. At the end of the day, the greatest reflection you can have about your financial life isn't just about how much you have or what you've accumulated materially. The real question is, how will you be remembered? When your life comes to an end, will it be announced with regret as someone who died without fulfilling their true potential? Or will it be celebrated with gratitude as someone who lived fully with purpose and achieved their goals? Many people live their lives focused on accumulating wealth and status, but never stop to reflect on the legacy they're leaving behind. They get stuck in the hustle of daily life, chasing money and success, without realizing that true wealth comes from experience, contribution, and the way you impact the world around you. True financial fulfillment isn't measured by your bank balance, but by the quality of life you live while you're here. It's not about having more, but about living according to your values and principles. When you look back, will you be proud of the choices you made? Or will you realize you spent your life trying to fit into society's expectations instead of following your own desires and goals? Many people wake up to this truth too late, wondering why they didn't make different choices, why they didn't start investing in their financial freedom earlier, or why they didn't change their mindset about money. They'll regret not having acted when they had the chance to create a prosperous financial life, to take ownership of their destiny, and to pass on wealth to future generations. When I talk about the legacy you leave, I'm not just referring to what you built financially, but to the positive impact you made in the lives of those around you. Money itself is not the ultimate goal. The goal is to live a life of purpose, where you create wealth not just for yourself, but for those you love and for the community around you. When your story is told, will you be remembered as someone who made a difference, as someone who used their life and resources wisely, who helped change the world around them? Or as someone who died without ever truly living, without ever reaching their full potential? This is the true test of financial success, not how much you accumulated, but how much you lived according to your values and goals. True wealth is measured by the impact you leave and the peace you feel in knowing you used your time, energy, and money for something meaningful. As you look to the future, ask yourself, what will the announcement of my life be when it comes to an end? Many of us, when reflecting on our finances, ask, why didn't my family build wealth? Where were my parents when others were investing and thriving? These questions, though common, are also extremely powerful. But as Robert Kiyosaki always reminds us, the problem isn't a curse passed from generation to generation. The real issue lies in the repeated choices families make, often unknowingly. Looking back isn't about assigning blame or regretting what wasn't done, but about understanding what went wrong so you can correct the course. I always talk about the importance of understanding your family's financial patterns. What did your parents do that contributed to your success? Or worse, what didn't they do that could have made all the difference? By understanding past mistakes, you can not only learn from them, but also stop repeating them. That's what breaks the cycle of poverty and creates a future of prosperity. The reality is, most of us were never taught about money in an effective way. Our parents, grandparents, and earlier generations often didn't have the tools to truly understand what works in the financial world. They often lived with a survival mindset, not thinking about how to invest and build wealth long term. What Kiyosaki emphasizes is that when you look back, you shouldn't just see the failures of the past. You should also see the opportunity to change your path. It's not about blaming, it's about understanding. When you recognize the financial patterns your family followed, you become capable of making smarter choices for the future. For example, maybe your parents struggled with debt or never invested in the stock market. Maybe your family always focused on spending what they earned without realizing how money could work for them. The most important thing is that by observing those choices, you gain the power to change your own financial future and stop following the same path. You don't need to carry the weight of past financial mistakes. What you should do is use what you've learned to make smarter financial decisions moving forward. By understanding the past, you open the door to a healthier financial future. True financial transformation begins when you look at your past, recognize the patterns that were followed, and make conscious decisions to change your future. You don't have to be a prisoner of the financial choices made by previous generations. With knowledge, action, and the right mindset, you can break the cycle and build a life of prosperity. The journey to financial freedom isn't easy, but it's absolutely possible. Start with what you have, where you are, and above all, with the mindset that success is achieved through understanding and strategic use of your money. By applying these lessons, you'll not only change your current reality, you'll also change the legacy you leave for future generations. If you found this content useful and transformative, share it with those who need to hear these messages. Don't keep this knowledge to yourself. Let's spread the ideas of financial freedom and prosperity to everyone. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content that will help you reach your financial goals. Share this video with someone who needs to change their life and join us in building a more prosperous and conscious financial future.